YouTube, Kurt Curtis. I have a different kind of video today. I'm actually going to be doing a review of Jon Moxley's book, Mox. For those of you who are just stumbling across this video, most of the content here on this channel is about wrestling cards. But I found a way to combine my love of reading and wrestling and make it make sense to post in this video. So I'm going to be going over this book. This was released in 2021. Jon Moxley. So I got into reading in high school, and that happened because I started reading wrestling books, biographies and stuff like that. Me and my friends would go to Borders. This was before smartphones were a thing, really. And they had like a little cafeteria type section with a bunch of tables and stuff, and everyone was supposed to be super quiet and people were just reading. So I just go there with my friends, and I think I read Stone Cold's book, Kurt Angle's book, The Hardy Boys. I don't know, at least a half dozen, if not more. Those are just some that I remember off the top of the head. Owen Hart, Rise and Fall of WCW. And I would just read the book, and then when I left, I would just remember what page I was on, and then we'd come back and I just continue reading. That's how I got into reading. And over the years, I have not really gotten into reading nonfiction. These days, I almost read strictly fiction books. I prefer historical fiction, literature and classics, fantasy, sometimes sci-fi, and sometimes just regular fiction. But I wanted to get back to my roots. I haven't read a wrestling book in a long, long time. So I wanted to tackle some of the newer books that had come out. And the ones that I can remember from recent memory are Jon Moxley's, and then Becky Lynch came out with a book, which is one I'll probably tackle next. And then I think Saraya is coming out with a book. So for me, because I like wrestling, it doesn't matter if I like the wrestler or not. It's very interesting to me just to read people's like just story about wrestling, like how they got into it, and just like, I don't know, behind the scenes type stuff. So for me, it doesn't matter. I'm not a huge Jon Moxley fan, but he's just credible. Like if Jon Moxley's AEW champion, no one argues. You're like, okay, makes sense. It's Jon Moxley, you know? So before I get into reviewing this book, I am going to point out some things that I didn't personally like. Some other people might like it. But before I get into that, I did enjoy this book. I did enjoy it, and it was really cool. But there are some things that I would have done a different way, but that's just my personal opinion. My opinion doesn't really matter, to be honest. Everyone's going to have their own. So first things first, the photography, and look at this. Just the way the book looks is just awesome. They got some really great photography in the cover art and like the back pages and stuff like that. And there's some photos throughout the book. And also just like little small stuff like the chapter titles, and you got kind of like the blood splatter. And then, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, but yeah, just like little random blood splatter on like some pages here and there. You got some photos in the book too. So I really like that. It's a really nice looking book. This is the hardcover. I don't even know if there's paperback at the moment. But yeah, so here are the chapters. So the things that I didn't necessarily like about the book is there are a little too many random non-wrestling stories for me. Now, if you are a huge Jon Moxley fan, you might be really familiar with his career, and you might enjoy these stories to get kind of a better look at his life and stuff like that. For me, I was just more interested in wrestling stories. Now, there isn't a ton. The majority of the book is wrestling stories. But for instance, there's like a chapter called Sandwiches, and he just goes on about how he likes sandwiches. And I'm just like, I would have just rather had an extra wrestling story. Now, there is a bunch of chapters, and the chapters for the most part are relatively short. Sometimes they're only a page or two, which makes it good to just pick up, just to kill some time if you only got 10, 15 minutes to read. There's lots of good stopping points, so I do like that. But yeah, I could have lived without some of the non-wrestling stories and stuff like that. But there was some that were actually pretty cool. See, whenever the pages are black, he's going to be talking about either an album that he likes or a movie that he likes, and they're very short for the most part. I thought that was kind of a cool throw in. Yeah, like he'll just talk about a movie, and I don't know. I'd be more interested in that than just like some random non-wrestling stories. But he did put a lot of those throughout the book, so you get to find out a lot of the music that he likes or what it meant to him, what it reminds him of, and that kind of thing. Now, another thing that I didn't necessarily like about it was it doesn't go in order. The chapters are all just random. And so you'll go from, like here, you have a 2008 little story, and then it goes to 2021. I don't think many people would be reading this book if they didn't know who Jon Moxley was. But if you happen to not know who he was and you're just interested in maybe learning about wrestling, this would not be a good book to start, because he just assumes that you know about his career, which is fine because most people reading are gonna know. So I'm just like, okay, this is 2018. I know he's in WWE at this point. This is 2008. He's in the Indies at this point. This is 2021. Okay, now he's talking about his time in AEW. I wish all the stories just like went in order by the date, but they don't. They jump around back and forth. However, there are parts, and my favorite part of the book was this chunk right here. And it starts talking about his CZW run and how he got into doing death matches and stuff like that. And for that, he goes pretty much in order all the way until how he wrestled in the Tournament of Death. And then for this while, it does actually go in order, and I did like it, and kind of shows how he made his way to WWE and talking about the Shield. Most of the stuff in WWE that he talks about is like the forming of the Shield, like waiting to get a shot, and like how the Shield got introduced and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't watching WWE at the time with the Shield, so that was pretty cool for me to read. And then it does talk about pretty much his AEW debut, but it really doesn't talk about that much AEW stuff because this was released in 2021. He hadn't been in AEW that long. So he does go into his debut in AEW and how he got that. But a lot of it is either WWE or his indie stuff. I really like the chapters over here too, where he was just like training, like how he got into training, and he was in this wrestling school, and basically the very beginning, the very start of his career. I found that interesting, so I liked those kind of chapters, and then I liked his CZW run over here. But overall, this book was pretty cool. I just wish it went in order. One thing to consider too, like it kind of threw me off. You know, Jon Moxley did write this, and you know, in the first half of the book, he kind of like, I don't know, whenever he like would say something that would be considered like sensitive or soft or make him look unmanly or something, he says something romantic, right away he have to be like, F you if you don't like that, F you if you don't agree. Throughout the book, so many times he's like, F you to all the people who didn't think I could make it and stuff like that. And at first it just threw me off. It just felt like it was unnecessary. I'm not at all offended by curse words. Sometimes it's even hard to do YouTube videos on here because I have to try not to curse. So it's not that. It just felt a little unnecessary. But then as you read, you kind of just get used to it. And I think he got better at it the second half of the book. And but then again, it's just Jon Moxley. It's just the way he is. And then once you realize like, okay, this is just Jon Moxley, then you just get used to it, I guess. But I don't know, man. It was like, it's his book. He can say whatever he wants. I don't feel like he needs to defend himself. But he always kept having to like defend his tough guy character or like manhood. It seemed like whenever he'd say something that would be like, I don't know, unmanly or something like that. But overall, I did enjoy the book. It was nice to get back into a wrestling book. I haven't read one in a while, like I said, and I'm going to be reading some more coming up. Probably going to be reading every third book, try to throw in a wrestling book. So you'll see one of these videos every once in a while. I do like to read, but I don't have a lot of time to do it. Work 2 jobs, got this YouTube channel, got an eBay store. I read when I got time, when all that other stuff is done. But if you are not into reading, but you like wrestling, try reading a wrestling book. Maybe not necessarily this one, unless you like Jon Moxley, but try reading a wrestling book, because all those years ago, that's what got me into reading. And to this day, I still read, and now I'm reading like fiction books and The Last Kingdom 13-book series. I've read Gone with the Wind recently, like all kinds of stuff. And it all started from just reading wrestling books. Reading is a lot of fun if it's something that you want to read. Appreciate you guys watching as always. Until next time.